This is Malzahar, one of the easiest champions in League of Legends, and today we're going to go on an extreme deep dive covering everything there is to know about him. But first, who am I? My name is Big2080, or Roddy. I'm a master mid laner. I play a lot of Malzahar, and I've even hit rank 1 playing him. Rank 1 Malzahar, that is. Not rank 1. What can you learn from this? Well, I believe everything that there is to know about Malzahar. If there's anything here that I've missed, I would be really surprised. I guarantee you'll learn something new from this, and yeah, just gonna go through everything. Spells, autos, his passive, any interaction that he has, you'll learn it all here. So next up, we're gonna talk about passive. I couldn't be asked to get in a custom game and record everything, so I am using MS Paint. There's a few interactions with it. For example, Lee Sin Q, the Q will hit you, and it will leave the mark on you, so you can still take the Q. But other spells, like Fizzled, will hit you, and it will remove your passive, but then the Fizzled will just lay on the floor, like it won't attach to you. Lee Sin Q works the same way with Ergot Ult, so if you're hit by Ergot Ult, you can still get pulled. Another important one is Nocturne Ult, will remove your passive, but you will get vision, and then you can still TP. So keep that in mind if you have a side laning. Another important thing to do with Malzahar passive is to remember that it is not a spell shield. It negates 90% of the damage for 0.25 seconds. So this means that it can block multiple things. It can block multiple CC, it can block multiple spells. For example, if you're playing against Ahri, they will often QE you to try and get off your passive. But if they do this instantly, your passive is still going to block the charm. And the last thing I wanted to mention about Malzahar passive is that you can use it to block tower shots. So now for his Q, Call of the Void. It's a long range silence, pretty large AoE with a slow cast time and very slow travel speed as well. There's a few interactions and tips and tricks. So the first thing I want to mention is to do with the range. Just like Karthus W or with Vel'Koz Q, if you cast it diagonally, you're gonna get a little bit more range. Because of the way Q works, where it spawns 2 projectiles on the edges, this also means you're gonna silence people faster by using the edge of the Q, rather than waiting for the projectiles to reach the middle. Q will also give you vision in between the 2 projectiles. It's not the same as the hitbox though, so you can still hit people with the Q but not see them. Make sure to check area or comet to see if there's people in a bush. This is useful for clearing pink wards or casting your E or ultimate as well. So because Malzahar Q is in 2 parts, I'm just going to give you a few different ways you can use this. Here are just some screenshots from how it goes. So you see the 2 projectiles spawn on the edge, then they cross over in the middle, and then the outer bits will be on the edge at the end. This means versus a wind wall. Normally a wind wall would block the Malzahar Q, but if you cast it perpendicular to the wind wall, then this bit will be covered by Q, and this bit will also be covered by Q. Obviously the hitbox will absorb it, so if Yasuo stands in the middle of it, he won't get hit. But you can use this to still cast Q around wind walls. This also means that if you're trying to time a Q with a Zhonya, it's not very good if someone's Zhonya is in the middle, like this, because your Qs are overlapping, so it's a bit harder to time it. Whereas if you were to Q here, or if you were to Q and they hit Zhonya's here, so you position just inside of the first hitbox, the first Q will go past, like right here, say like 0.1 seconds, and then the second Q, this one, will overlap in this frame here, which is like 0.3 seconds maybe. So you have 2 chances to time it, and it's much easier to time a Zhonya this way. So another way to use the 2 Q projectiles is to cover a certain area for a little bit longer. Here I use the Q to hit 2 minions. It's useful when the wave is just coming onto tower and you don't want to wait for it to bunch up. You can also use this if you've got 2 champions chasing you, and you can hit 2 champions with 1 Q. And the final thing I wanted to mention about using this Q covering one spot a little bit longer is sometimes if a champion is dodging and they dodge down, they will dodge the initial Q spawning, and then they will think they've dodged it, and they will dodge back up, and they will get hit by the second Q. So just make sure to always use the corners of the Q, unless your timing is on you, or you want to hit multiple people. Next is Void Swarm, Malzahar's W. This ability will always spawn one voidling. You can gain up to 2 stacks by casting other spells, which will spawn up to 2 additional voidlings. The most important part about W is understanding how aggro works. Your W will prioritize your ultimate, and then your E, and then whatever is closest to them. You can use this to set up the kills by Eing a target which is close to the thing you want to ultimate, normally the minion wave, then Wing, your W will walk over to what you've E'd, and then you can ultimate your target. The voidlings will very quickly go and attack them. So another important thing to keep in mind with the W is that oftentimes when you want to clear a wave, if it's a cannon wave, just doing EWQ won't clear the wave, so you want to have 2 stacks of W. And the fastest way to do this is to spawn 1 W before the wave gets there, then EQ the wave and cast another W as you're walking away. And as you can see here, it will clear all of the wave, which it wouldn't do otherwise. And this is what it'll look like without doing W stacking. So if I just EQ W and walk away, you can see even with 2 items I won't be able to clear the minion wave. Obviously when you're playing Malzahar you just want to EQ W and walk away, because it saves you so much tempo. So it's really bad if you're not doing this. So now I'm going to go over all the spots where you can cast W over a wall. First is this one. Next we've got the Krugs, which only works in this spot here. You might want to practice that one. There's the Dragon Pit, which only works from this spot here. The Baron Pit only works in this crack here. You want to click on this crack here when you stand here. This wall here, which is super useful for not only getting vision in the bush, but farming the blue buff, works on both buffs. You can obviously place your W over this wall as well, which is useful for when you're walking to go and farm an objective. Works at Baron as well, although it's a bit thicker. You can't do it from over here. You can do this wall as well, I'm pretty sure, if you stand in here. Okay, it might just be from the other side. Okay, yeah. So it only works there, same on both sides. You can do the base as well, if you stand in this pocket here. And you can do it anywhere where there isn't grass. So you can see there's this grass here. I wouldn't be able to do it if I stood here. Alright, Kappa, you can. But okay, any of the walls you can do this on then, I guess. Just useful. This one here is really OP. You can get vision in this bush. People are walking back to lane, you can W here, and it will not only hit them, but you can then full combo them as well, which is super OP. Works on both sides, as long as you're standing against the wall. Pretty sure you can W this one. Yep. Pretty sure you can't do this one. Oh, you can actually. Right. And then you can do the alcoves as well. The alcoves are difficult. You can do the short wall, but this one requires a really specific lineup. I don't know what it is, and you'll use it 1 in a million games, so it's probably not worth learning it. But you can do it. Okay, there you go. I guess if you click on this area here, from this corner. Alright, well. I don't know. You saw me do it, it's really hard to do. You can do this wall here, that one's useful. Both sides of the map, works both ways obviously. You can do this one, obviously to face check the bush is really OP. Works on both sides again. This one, I don't think you can place in the bush. Oh, you can actually. That's really OP as well, then. I don't think you can do it here. You probably can, it's just much harder. Yeah, I don't know how to do that one. I think that's every spot which is relevant on the map. Okay, there's this wall as well, you can use to check Tribush. Works on both sides again. Don't know why this lineup is a bit harder, but there you go. Maybe the most OP part about Malzahar's W is that you can use it to dodge skill shots. Oh, not to dodge, sorry, to block skill shots, because it's like its own, it's like a minion basically. Most skill shots you cannot react to with W because it takes such a long time to spawn the thing. You can see it takes almost like half a second for it to spawn in. But there are some skill shots, like Silas E is really telegraphed because he has to dash and then cast it, so you can always W that on reaction. Stuff like Blitzcrank Hook, which takes a really long time to cast, that's easy to block with your W. But for most skill shots, you won't be able to do that. Stuff like, like a Kali E or Ari's Charm, they're too fast. So what you want to do is, if they're standing down here and they're going to throw a skill shot at you, you're going to have to predict it, and the way that you get the longest time to predict it is if you cast W behind yourself as you're walking away. So you're going to walk away and W, and that way it's going to spawn in like basically at your feet, and it'll be behind you when you get there. So I'll just show it again. You can see it spawns in right behind me. Instead of if I was walking this way and I W towards the target, so like this, there's the Voidling is much further away from me by the time it spawns in, and that makes it harder to dodge a skill shot or block a skill shot. So something I wanted to talk about with Malzahar's W is how the turret aggro works when you're sieging. The turret will always auto the W first. So you can see here, the target attacked that Voidling before it killed the next minion, which was the cannon in this case. What this means is that oftentimes, if your laner has left, like say they had to recall, and you're here alone under the turret, people will spawn in loads and loads of Voidlings under the turret because they want to do as much damage to the tower as possible with the Voidlings. But when you do this, what happens is you start to basically tank for these minions and keep them alive while the enemy laner is coming back to lane. And let's say you spawn in 6 Voidlings, so 2 full sets of Voidlings. You've tanked 6 tower shots for your minions, which, if these melee creeps have taken any damage at all, means that you've just saved the enemy laner an extra 6 tower shots worth of CS, so 3 melee creeps in that case. So it's actually pretty bad to spawn in your W under tower if they are going to come back and collect the CS. So next is E, Malefic Visions. This is a pretty long range ability, 650, so the same as Caitlyn. It's point and click, and it does damage over time for 4 seconds when it's affecting someone. The duration gets refreshed if you use your Q or R on it. So keep in mind that when you want to refresh this, you want to let the E be on the target for as long as possible before you refresh it, just to maximize your DPS. It's got decent AP scaling with 80%, so you can build stuff like Death Cap on Malzahar, and it's not bad because you will do a lot of damage. And you also want to keep in mind that when you kill something, it gives you your mana back, as well as bouncing. I think everyone knows what bounce is, but the bounce range is slightly smaller than the cast range at 500 instead of 650. They also added an execute, but keep in mind that this is not like 100% effective, because minions do more damage than 10 to 30 at different points in the game. So just because you have your E on a minion doesn't guarantee that you're going to kill it. So the first trick I've got with the E is to help to land it unexpectedly, or even just get a little bit more range on it. Here you can see if there's something that I can kill with my Q. If I cast Q and then E, it's going to bounce instantly to the target. So there used to be a bug when I was recording this that if you eat something as it would die, it wouldn't bounce, and it would just kind of do nothing. You can see here it just goes to the ground and dies. But that's been fixed now, and instead you can kind of abuse this by eating something even after it's dead, by buffering your E on something before it dies, and then if you time it right, it's going to go off anyway and you'll get a bounce from it. So some abilities like Garen ult get cancelled during their cast time if someone goes out of vision. But as you can see here, Malzahar E casts even if they're in vision for just 1 frame. So finally is Nether Grasp, Malzahar's ultimate. It's got 700 range, so 50 more than his E. The tether radius is 1250. This refers to how far someone can walk away from your ultimate before the tether, which is the line that comes out of you, breaks. So if you're ulting like an Olaf, for example, and then he ults, he can walk 1250 units before the tether breaks. It's got basically instant cast, like this is the shortest cast time in the entire game, but it's not instant cast, so keep that in mind. That'll be important for some stuff you can do with his ultimate. It's a suppression, which means it can't be cleansed, you can only QSS it. It has pretty decent AP scaling and base damage as well, like when this is level 16, and you can see here it does 20% of their max HP. This is a lot of damage. Against like HP stackers, this shreds them really quickly. So probably the most important part of Malzahar's ultimate is buffering it. This not only refers to when you R and then flash, but it also means casting it when anyone's outside of your range. Because there's a lot of champions which you can like interrupt them faster than is humanly possible without buffering. Using this is like a really OP tool. For example, if there's an Akali here and I've got an ally who's obviously going to get Akali ulted, I can buffer my ultimate, and when Akali R2s, because I buffered it, I'm going to be fast enough to interrupt her dash, and she's not going to be able to hit this target. Like if I cast it now and then she dashes and she gets to here, I'm going to ult her here before she hits this target. So another important way to buff your R on Malzahar is using it out of Zhonya. You can press it while you're in Zhonya and it will instantly go off afterwards. This is really OP because even like versus an AD carry, if they're trying to auto attack you out of Zhonya, your R will cast so quickly that it's going to cancel their auto attack animation. So everyone knows that you can R flash into range on Malzahar, but because of the super short cast time that it has, it means you can actually R flash to reposition your ultimate as well. Now, it's really difficult to do because the cast time is 0.005 seconds, so 5,000ths of a second is how long you have from casting your ultimate to moving your mouse as to where you want to flash to. But it is possible. You can see here that I'm trying to do it with my mouse, and I did it the first time, but it's really inconsistent and it's really hard to do. So I've got a few tricks and use cases for those tricks as well as to how you can do this consistently. The first way is to move your camera, and what you're doing here is you're pressing R, then you're snapping the camera back to yourself and then pressing flash, and you're doing that instantly. And as you can see in these examples, it means it's really easy to replicate this R flash. Here I do it over a wall, which is useful because it makes your R flash range a little bit longer. And here, which I think is the most useful way of doing it, is the Zhonya. Because when you Zhonya, you have time to reposition your camera while you're in Zhonya, and then as soon as you leave Zhonya, you can R flash. So to do this mechanic with the camera, you're going to need 3 different buttons. You're going to need your ultimate, your flash, which I have on F, and your camera hotkey button, which I use on spacebar. And these 3 buttons have to be pressed with different fingers. So when I do this, I use my index finger to press F. Sorry, I use my middle finger to press R, and I use my thumb to press the spacebar. If you're using the same finger to press R and F, you're not going to be fast enough. This is what it should look like, and the sequence you want is R, spacebar, then flash. So the way you execute it is you're going to move your camera in the opposite direction that you want to flash. So if I want to flash in this direction, then I need to move my camera over here and put it right on the edge of the screen, because what we want is our mouse to be behind us when we snap the camera. So when I press spacebar here, you can see my flash is, or my cursor is now over here. So that's where I'm going to flash to. So to flash up and diagonal into this choke, I'm going to move my camera down and diagonal in the opposite direction. And I'm going to hover my cursor over it. I'm going to press R, then I'm going to snap my camera, and then I'm going to flash afterwards. And do that as fast as you can. So it should look something like this. Okay, well, not like that, like this. So next we're gonna go over cancelling your ultimates. This section is dedicated to casual. There are loads and loads of different ways to cancel your ultimate on Malzahar, but they all act slightly differently. So the most normal way would just be to use right click. So if I R this person and then I right click, you can see it cancels. But the problem is it cancels slowly. So there's, I think it's half a second you have until you can move again after casting your ultimate. So if I go like this, I was locked in that animation for longer than I want to be. The fastest way to get out of the animation is to cast an ability. So I can do RE and then I can instantly cast. The problem is with that as well is it's still not instant, because E and Q, they both have cast times. So the actual fastest way to cancel your ultimate is to do RW. Like, okay, I don't know what I meant. Like this. And that way I can instantaneously cast my ultimate and start walking again. This is really useful for like really niche cases. So say this is a Jarvan and I need to cancel his EQ so I don't get knocked up, but I also don't want to ultimate him because he's got his team with him. So I don't know, like let's say if I just ulted this guy, then whoever this was is just going to come here and kill me. Then what I can do is, as soon as I see Jarvan EQ, I can RW and walk away, and that way I will have cancelled his EQ and I'm also still running away from this person. So that's the reason why you would want to cancel your ultimate instantly. Some other things to keep in mind with your ultimate is if you just try auto-attacking this person, it's not going to cancel your ultimate. So I'm right clicking here, but it's not cancelling my ultimate. Although if you A-click, then it will cancel your ultimate. Summoner spells, some of them will and some of them won't cancel your ultimate. So using Ignite, that doesn't cancel your ultimate, so I can cast it whenever I want, and it didn't cancel my ultimate. But using Flash, that will cancel my ultimate, but only after 0.5 seconds. So I can R Flash like this, and nothing happens. But if I do R and then Flash, then it is going to cancel my ultimate. That's obviously useful because sometimes you're going to ult someone and this Jarvan's going to EQ me, and I need to cancel it early so I can flash out the way. One more thing is if you need to interrupt someone with your ultimate. So let's say I see Fiddlesticks here and I don't have enough time to Q him and silence him, and I need to get away really quickly, is I can do RW and then flash, and I can escape really fast and also do an instant CC. So RW and then flash, and that's instantaneous if you do it faster. So the last thing I want to talk about with Malzahar is his auto attacks. This champ is really old, so his auto attack animation is terrible, and you also don't want to be going attack speed rune on him, so it's extremely clunky. One of the weird things that Malzahar has is that his wind up looks really long, but it actually isn't that long. So if you look at a normal auto attack, it'll look like this. But if you're cancelling your auto attack and kiting afterwards, then you can start moving way before you finish your auto attack animation. So you can see here how my hands are still basically at my side when I'm throwing out my auto attack, unless he does that animation. But this one, I can cancel it super early. And then one other thing to do with his autos is that you can cast your W while you're auto attacking, and it's not going to cancel your animation, which is obviously super important when you're trading, because you want to be blocking spells with your W and not having to cancel your auto attacks. So you can do something like that, and you're still going to get an auto and also cast your W. Well, that's everything I've got, so thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I've started doing coaching now as well, so add me on League or on Discord. I'll leave them in the description if you're interested in that. If you want to see another video, maybe on items and runes and stuff for Malzahar, I can do something like that. But yeah, thank you.